Om Gyantimirandasya Ginandana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Caitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Simate Bhakti Vedanta Svaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasmitya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Synonyms. Shri Prajapatya Ucho. The Prajapatis said, Deva-Deva, O Lord Mahadeva, best of the demigods. Mahadeva, O great demigod. Bhutatman, O life and soul of everyone in this world. Bhuta-bhavana, O the cause of the happiness and flourishing of all of them. Trahi, deliver. Naha, us. Sharana apannan, who have taken shelter at your lotus feet. Tri-lokyāḥ, of the three worlds. Dahanat, which is causing the burning. Vishat, from this poison. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Prajapatis said, O greatest of all demigods, Mahadeva, super soul of all living entities and cause of their happiness and prosperity, we have come to the shelter of your lotus feet. Now please save us from this fiery poison which is spreading all over the three worlds. Purport. Since Lord Shiva is in charge of annihilation, why should he be approached for protection which is given by Lord Vishnu? Lord Brahma creates and Lord Shiva annihilates, but both Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are incarnations of Lord Vishnu and are known as Shakti-avesh avatars. They are endowed with a special power like that of Lord Vishnu, who is actually all-pervading in their activities. Therefore, whenever prayers for protection are offered to Lord Shiva, actually Lord Vishnu is indicated, for otherwise Lord Shiva is meant for destruction. Lord Shiva is one of the Ishwaras, or the controllers, known as Shakti-avesh avatars. Therefore, he can be addressed as having the qualities of Lord Vishnu. Shri Prajapatya Uchu Deva-Deva Mahadeva Bhutatman Bhuta-bhavana Trahina Sharanapanam tri-lokyāḥ Dahanad Vishat. The Prajapati said, the greatest of all demigods, Mahadev, super soul of all living entities and cause of their happiness and prosperity, we have come to the shelter of your lotus feet. Now please save us from this fiery poison which is spreading all over the three worlds. This is a very interesting pastime of churning the milk ocean with the attempt of getting nectar. And demigods and demons are churning the ocean with the Vasuki as a churning rod and Mandara mountain. At this moment of the pastime, they are doing quite a good job with it. Something's happening. But then they got the unexpected result. Instead of nectar, they got poison, which is very interesting. Why this is happening? Of course, we're all looking for the nectar. Some people look for material nectar, sense gratification, and other people look for spiritual nectar, nectar of devotion, nectar of devotional service, as Prabhupada named his book, Nectar of Devotion, which is the exact rendering from the Sanskrit, Bhakti Rasayana Sagara. Literally, it means nectarian ocean of devotion. And we're all looking for the nectar, right? And we're chanting about it every single morning. What's that? Chetodarpanam arjanam bhavamaha davagni nirvapanam sheyakarava chandrika vitaranam vidyavathu jivanam anandam buddhi vartanam pratipadam purna amrita swadhanam. The chanting of the holy name is giving us the nectar. We're always anxious. But then, why is this happening? Why are demigods or demons are churning this milk ocean trying to get nectar, but then they're getting poison? This is how it all works. Because Krishna explains in the end of Bhagavad Gita that the happiness which is like poison in the beginning and nectar at the end is the happiness in the mode of goodness. So there is nothing surprising. If you want nectar, you have to go through the poison first. And very interesting that even in this first prayer of Shikshashtakam, it also says, Cheto darpanam arjanam bhavamahadavagni nirvapanam, that the first effects of the chanting are that Cheto darpanam arjanam, that purification of the consciousness, and bhavamahadavagni nirvapanam, extinguishing of the great fire of material existence. So we're all burning in the fire of material existence because of this poison in our consciousness. And what is the poison? Lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, illusions, so many problems. And yesterday, Krishna Rupa Mataji explained very nicely this point, that first we need to eradicate all this poison in order to reach to the nectar. And so this is what's happening in this pastime. They were trying for nectar, but then they got so much poison, and this poison, Kalahala, was very dangerous, and the entire universe could be destroyed by this poison. And then what do? They are approaching Lord Shiva for protection. Trahi, no, that please protect us. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Prabhupada, following in his footsteps, are bringing up very interesting question. Actually, we need to ask appropriate questions in order to understand Bhagavatam, but sometimes we cannot figure out which question is the right one. So acharyas are helping us out. On our behalf, they are asking right questions. Question means you have doubt. And doubts are very important for our spiritual advancement, because doubts are the signs of intelligence. So if someone has no doubt, that speaks something about the person, right? that person is not really, we cannot say someone doesn't have an intelligence. Every living entity has intelligence, but some people use it, some don't. Some people's intelligence is sleeping. And sometimes people are also sleeping together with the intelligence. But if our intelligence is awakened, we should be asking appropriate questions. And this is an example of very appropriate question. Doubts can be very, very helpful in our spiritual advancement if they are put forward and dealt with properly, misspelled. But the same doubts can be very harmful if they are not expressed, because if they are staying in our hearts, they can destroy our Krishna consciousness, because they can destroy the very foundation of our Krishna consciousness, which is faith. And without faith, no one can really advance spiritually. And so what is the doubt Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur brings up? And the doubt is why the demigods were asking Lord Shiva for protection, if protection is the business of Lord Vishnu. And what is the answer? Well, if we read the previous verses, the answer is pretty clear. There are few answers, and one answer is they are asking Lord Shiva because Lord Vishnu told them to do so. Lord Vishnu himself was engaged in churning, and actually churning really started happening only when Lord Vishnu interfered and started supporting demigods and demons. Ajita, that was the form of Lord Vishnu who took part in the churning process. And it was because of his involvement that all the poison came out. And he advised the demigods, now you go to Lord Shiva and ask him for protection. So answer is pretty clear, that demigods just following the chain of command. Because the Supreme Lord told them, they went to Lord Shiva for protection. But then, of course, the other question, which was addressed in yesterday's purport, was why the Lord himself did not eradicate the poison. And the answer is, anyone remembers? Yes, because the Lord enjoys giving credit to his devotees. The Lord has all the credit anyway, but he likes to share the glories with his devotees. And when I was listening to Mother Krishna Rupa's class yesterday, I was remembering this very interesting pastime with Srila Prabhupada during the morning walk, when the kind of similar doubt was expressed by one devotee who asked Srila Prabhupada, if Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Lord himself, and he wanted to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, and he predicted that it will happen, but then why Lord Chaitanya did not do it himself? And Srila Prabhupada liked this question so much, he stopped and he turned to the devotee and he said, Lord Chaitanya didn't do this because he wanted me to do so. Yeah, because this is what Krishna wants. Krishna wants his devotee to be glorified. Same like Krishna asked Arjuna to fight because he wanted Arjuna to get all the glories, which he directly expresses in Bhagavad Gita 11:33. Tasmat pamutishta yasholavasva. Arjuna, get up and fight and win glory, become glorious. And here, even though we understand Lord Ajita could easily deal with all this poison, with all these problems, but he wants to show the importance of Lord Shiva. He wants Lord Shiva to be glorified as the greatest of all the Vaishnavas. Vaishnavanam yatha shambhu. This is the statement of Bhagavatam, which is of course little confusing. That it says that Lord Shiva is the greatest of all the Vaishnavas, but we believe that Srimati Radharani is the greatest of all the Vaishnavas. So, how do we resolve this contradiction? There are so many apparent contradictions in Vaishnav philosophy or theology, we can say. Very simple. Lord Shiva is the greatest of all the Vaishnavas in this material world. There is nobody greater than Lord Shiva in this material world, but when we look at the larger scale, both material and spiritual world, the greatest of all the devotees is Srimati Radharani. So there is no competition. And therefore, Krishna or Ajita, he wants everyone to worship Lord Shiva and glorify Lord Shiva. But then we can ask, so if Krishna wants demigods, his devotees, to worship Lord Shiva and glorify Lord Shiva, then what about us as Krishna's devotees? Why aren't we worshipping Lord Shiva and aren't we glorifying Lord Shiva? Do we worship Lord Shiva? Do we glorify Lord Shiva? Yes. And those who say no, they are less informed about our spiritual practices and philosophy, because every single morning we glorify not just Lord Shiva, but Sadashiva, the original form of Lord Shiva in the spiritual world, who appeared as Advaita Acharya. So every single morning we glorify Lord Sadashiva, do puja to him, and what we sing is very important. Doya koro sita pati, Advaita Gosai, tava kripa palepai Chaitanya nitai, that, O Lord Advaita Gosai, please give me your mercy. Only by your mercy I can get the mercy of Chaitanya and Nitai. Some people also may say, what about Mother Durga? Do we worship Mother Durga? Yes, we do. Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra. Who is Subhadra? Subhadra, also known as Durga. That's the original form of Durga. So, we are following the complete and perfect process of Bhakti Yoga. And so we're worshipping the original forms of Lord Shiva and Durga also, all over the world. And Srila Prabhupada was so fond of Ratha Yatras to help the whole world to connect to Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra. And this is very important core principle in Vaishnava philosophy and theology, that we're not only worshipping the Supreme Lord, but we're worshipping the Supreme Lord's representatives, and especially Lord Shiva. You can see how here in Sridham Mayapur and in Navadvip Dham, there is always Lord Shiva who is accompanying the Supreme Lord in all the places. And before we get the mercy of the Supreme Lord, we need to get the mercy of Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is really important for us, because Lord Shiva is in charge of false ego of all living entities. And he is non-different from the Supreme Lord, and probably it's worth of spending few minutes understanding how is it that, who is Lord Shiva? And this is what Brahma Samhita explains, that the Supreme Lord, Govinda, or Krishna, is completely transcendental. And he never comes in touch with the material nature. But then, in order to take part in the activities of the material nature, the very first thing the Lord does after he expands himself into three Vishnu, Mahavishnu, Ksharadakashaya Vishnu, and Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, then Mahavishnu is glancing at the Pradhan, at the original form of material energy, and with his glance, he impregnates material energy with the seeds of all living entities. All the souls, they go into the material world through the glance of Mahavishnu. And the glance of Mahavishnu is Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is the glance of the Supreme Lord. And we may ask ourselves this question that, if the Lord is glancing at you, is it Lord or not? For example, if Madhav is glancing at you, or Lord Nrsingadev is glancing at you, is it Lord or not? So glance of the Lord is non-different from the Lord himself, but because the Lord is always transcendental and he can never come in touch with material energy, this glance is taking form of Lord Shiva. And so therefore Lord Shiva is non-different from the Supreme Lord. And actually, it's very interesting. The function of Lord Shiva is to bring everyone to Krishna. And I'm coming to know more and more about the devotees who were worshipping Lord Shiva prior to coming to Krishna consciousness, including myself. And it's interesting that I stopped doing that for a while, but then my spiritual master made me resume that worship. Let me see a show of hands. How many of the devotees worshipped Lord Shiva prior to coming to Krishna consciousness? Okay, quite a few. Very interesting. And so, yeah, maybe I can share the story. How did I resume my worship of Lord Shiva? There was a time in our society when the worship of Lord Shiva and anyone else except Krishna was frowned upon in a very kind of condescending way. We're not worshipping anybody except Krishna. And then one day I was traveling with my spiritual master. This was actually the first day we've met. And then he was unpacking his deity worship paraphernalias, and he pulled out one small Shiva lingam. I kind of looked at this Shiva lingam, and in a kind of sarcastic way, I was asking, "What happened to you, Gurudev? You started worshipping demigods?" And he said, "No, I brought him for you to worship." I was completely confused. I said, "But why do I need Lord Shiva if I already have Govardhan Shila you gave me?" He said, "No, you don't understand. This is Gopeshwar Mahadev, and he will be a perfect match for Giriraj. So you worship him together with Giriraj as the one by whose mercy you can get Giriraj's mercy." So I didn't have great enthusiasm, but Anyway, the order of the spiritual master is important. So I started doing that, but then I realized the reason, because Lord Shiva is in charge of false ego. And so I really felt that he is purifying me in many ways. And this is why we can never get mercy of the Supreme Lord. And this is why we can never get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda without the mercy of Advaita Acharya, because false ego stands in the way. And this is the essence, well, we can say the origin of that poison, which is destroying the whole universe, we can say, false ego. And only by the mercy of Lord Shiva we can get rid of that. And the previous verse is saying that Lord Shiva is situated on the summit of Kailash. That's his home place. It's also very interesting that it's quite well known that if somebody wants material prosperity, they can pray to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva can give material prosperity. And it's very confusing how Lord Shiva can give material prosperity if he himself has nothing, right? If he's sitting under the tree in the loincloth, no possessions. And it's also confusing how Krishna is saying, even though Krishna is the master of all opulences and he lives such an opulent life, right? Just look at his 16,108 palaces in Dwaraka. And Radha Madhav, what Madhav means, the husband of goddess of fortune. And so Krishna is so opulent, but then he says, Yasyaham anugrinami harishitad danam shanai, that the first mercy I exhibit towards my devotee is that I'm taking away all his opulences, right? So how come that Lord Shiva, who has no opulences, can bestow so much of material opulence? And how come that Krishna, who has all the opulences, is taking away the opulence? Well, some people might suspect this is why. Because Lord Shiva is giving all the opulences away, he has nothing. And because Krishna is stealing all the opulences, he has so much. But of course, this is material understanding. Actually, the Supreme Lord is doing everything to benefit us spiritually. And Lord Shiva is giving material opulences in order to help people to become frustrated with material sense gratification and come to Krishna. And Krishna is taking material opulence away from the devotees to make them dependent on him. So that is the reason why Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna are acting in this way. Actually, we can understand that they are the same personality, just dealing with different categories of living entities, helping both of them advance spiritually. And we can see how they work as a team in here, in this pastime. Lord Ajita, with the churning, he brought out all the poison from the ocean, and now he is telling the demigods, go and surrender unto Lord Shiva, and he will take care of this poison, and he will help you to become free from this danger. And so here the demigods are praying to Lord Shiva, and as we know, Lord Shiva will very quickly answer their prayers and will drink all the poison, because he, being the topmost Vaishnava, and it's also interesting that Lord Shiva is non different from the Supreme Lord, but then he is regarded as the topmost Vaishnava. But this is also not the only exception in our theology. We also have Lord Chaitanya, who is the Supreme Lord himself, but then he is regarded as the best devotee. He's playing the role of his own devotee, and another example is Giriraj Govardhan, who is non different from Krishna, but he is playing the role of Krishna's devotee, Haridasa Varya. So, in the same way, Lord Shiva, even though he is non different from the Supreme Lord, but he is playing the role of his own devotee, and he is exhibiting the topmost quality of the Lord and the devotee, which is compassion. And it's very interesting that some time ago, one of the devotees who is holding very high position in Harvard Business School, he is a director for Southeast Asia, and he shared with us the latest development in leadership, in global leadership sphere. And he says it's changing rapidly, the focus of the leadership. And he says nowadays the two greatest qualities which are recommended by Harvard Business to all the global leaders to develop are, believe it or not, compassion and humility. So this is very interesting how by the advancement of the golden age of Lord Chaitanya, which we are into almost the end of 531 year, we're going to be celebrating very soon 532 years of the golden age of Lord Chaitanya out of 10,000. And we can see how by the development of the golden age, the consciousness of the leaders, even in business or political spheres, is changing. And these very interesting qualities are promoted as being the most important qualities of the leaders. And so we can understand that the development is happening, that the churning of the ocean of Kali-yuga is happening by the power of the chanting of the holy names, and very interesting changes are taking place. Of course, poison also coming out. There are so many crazy things. It seems like even though we are at the dawn of the golden age, but sometimes it seems like Kali-yuga is intensifying, but this is a natural consequence of purification. When purification is happening, all the dirt comes out naturally. But the advancement of consciousness is also happening side by side, and Srila Prabhupada predicted that very clearly. He said, with the development of Krishna consciousness, there will be polarization. Yeah, the human society will polarize. Because of the influence of Krishna consciousness, there will be polarization. And he gave an example of milk. If you add lemon in it, what will happen to milk? It will divide into whey and curd. So in the same way, human society, under the influence of Krishna consciousness, will separate into divine and demoniac. Before, it was pretty homogeneous, right? But after Krishna consciousness was introduced, polarization started, and so we can see very interesting things, that spiritual advancement is very, very rapid. Like chanting of Hare Krishna is taken by people way outside of the Krishna consciousness movement with such enthusiasm that some people don't even know that we started chanting Hare Krishna historically in the West. Many people don't even give us this credit. Some people are asking, oh, you also chanting Hare Krishna? Very interesting. Where did you learn this mantra from? Who is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada? Never heard of him. But we are chanting Hare Krishna for so many years. And so, yeah, it's very interesting what's happening on the planet. And degradation is happening at the same time. So very interesting processes. But it's all for good. It's all happening in the right way. And so whatever's happening, we should be happy about it, because it's all part of the Lord's plan for the spiritual development of this planet. Hare Krishna. Maybe someone has questions, comments, suggestions, complaints. Okay. Do we have microphone, please, for the internet listeners? Because otherwise they will not be able to hear the question. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much. My question is, are these opulences including some subtle type of opulences in the form of mind and intelligence, which is given by Lord Shiva? I'm not saying about the spiritual type of intelligence, but I'm saying about the strength of mind and material intelligence. It's also given by Shiva, or it comes from other authorities?
Lord Shiva is in charge of the false ego. Actually, Lord Shiva, according to Brahma Samhita, is connected to Sankarshan. Whatever we are using in the material world is coming from Lord Shiva, because false ego is connected to mind, intelligence, and senses. False ego is the most subtle and most powerful element in this material world. We can also see how, the layers of the universe are described, and starting from the most gross level, the earth, then each other layer is 10 times greater than the previous one, and the last layer is the layer of false ego. I mean, it's so huge, we can't even imagine how huge it is. And yes, Lord Shiva, he actually is the master of the material world. And we are depending on him for the exit. Sometimes, because Lord Shiva is situated in Brahma-jyoti, this is where Kailash is. So Lord Shiva is between material and spiritual world, and so sometimes I'm thinking of him as a immigration officer. If you want to reach to the spiritual world, you need Lord Shiva's approval. We've got the visa to go to the spiritual world from Lord Chaitanya, right? In our Vaikuntha or Goloka passport. But in order to actually reach to the spiritual world, we have to get that visa approval stamp from Lord Shiva, and then we can go. Okay, can you please pass on the microphone to the young lady here? Yes, it's working.
Did you say something like Shiva's sort of equal to Lord Vishnu?
Shiva is equal to Vishnu. Is Shiva equal to Vishnu?
I'm asking, you said something like Shiva's equal to Lord Vishnu, but isn't it one of the 10 offenses against the holy name to think that Shiva or Rama's name is equal
Okay,
to Lord
yes.
Vishnu?
One of the offenses of the holy name is to say that Lord Shiva is, or other demigods are equal to Lord Vishnu, but we are saying that, we actually didn't say that Lord Shiva is equal to Vishnu, we are saying that Lord Shiva is non-different from Lord Vishnu, being personification of his glance, and equal means that equal in all respects, but Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu or Krishna are different, as Brahma Samhita explains, in the same way as milk is different from yogurt. That yogurt is non-different from milk because it came from milk, but it is not equal to milk, right? So if you think of this analogy of milk and yogurt, then it will be very easy for you to understand how Lord Shiva is non-different from Krishna, but he is not equal. He is not the same. Yeah, thank you. Very good question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was just wondering how Lord Shiva and sometimes Lord Brahma also, they accept the prayers which is meant for Lord Vishnu as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the Lord of the Lord.
Yes, so how demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma are accepting prayers on behalf of the Lord, in the same way as spiritual master is accepting our worship on behalf of the Supreme Lord. So demigods, being representatives of the Supreme Lord, can accept our prayers and worship and pass it on to the Supreme Lord. Microphone, yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I have a doubt.
Sure. You're a very intelligent man. This is, we know.
Maharaj, the Lord is unlimited, yet He does not come in contact with the material world ever, only by His glance. So this may be perceived as limiting. This may limit Him. So how do we understand this?
How do we understand that Lord is unlimited, but He never comes in touch with the material world? Well, the example is Krishna, when he comes in his original form as Shyamasundar, and he displays his pastimes apparently in the material world, but actually he brings his own abode with him. And there is one song by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, this is introductory song to Sharanagati, which also describes Lord Chaitanya in the same way, because Lord Chaitanya is also Krishna. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jividoya Kori Svaparsat Sviyadhama Sahayabatori. So, Lord Śrī Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of the compassion for all living entities, is coming to this world, and he is bringing Svaparishat, his own associates, and Sviyadhama, and his own abode, he is bringing to this world. And so he is not, even though it seems like he is in this world, but he is staying in his own abode. And he is surrounded by his own associates. So this is one aspect of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, that even though the Supreme Lord is in the material world, but he is never in the material world. He is always in his own abode. And it's not easy for us to understand. Of course, we can use material analogies, like deep diver, someone who is diving to the bottom of the ocean, and then he has this oxygen cylinder, so even though he is in the water, but he doesn't breathe water, he still breathes air, he brings his own air with him. But it's very limited material analogy. So yeah, much better analogy is analogy of the king who is traveling, and there were historical episodes. One king went to faraway land for travel, but he wanted to stay in his own element. He wanted to stay in his own home. So how this issue could be resolved? It was resolved in a very simple way, that the group of the builders went ahead and they built an exact replica of his palace. It was non-different from the king's palace. And so king arrived into his palace. And he lived into his palace even though he was so far away. So something like that. These are few material analogies which can help us to some degree understand how Krishna is in the material world, and at the same time he is not in the material world. Hare Krishna. Okay, one more. I think it should be last question because we're running out of time.
Maharaj, you said that Advaita Acharya is Sadashiva, but we also hear that he's Mahavishnu.
Yes.
How do we harmonize the contradiction?
Well, because Mahavishnu is glancing at the material nature, and so Mahavishnu's glance is also Mahavishnu, but he is also Sadashiva. Srila Prabhupada was mentioning that Krishna consciousness is 90% common sense. So 90% of Krishna consciousness is quite easy to understand, but there are still 10% of achintya. certain things which we cannot really understand. It's like we can be only one person. Of course, there are some people who have multiple personalities, but it's not considered normal. But we know that Advaita Acharya is not the only person who is an incarnation of two personalities. But when we meditate on the aspect of these two personalities being the same, being not the same, being connected to each other in a logical way, that helps us to understand again. Our ability to understand these things is limited because we still have material consciousness. All right, so thank you all very much. Grantaraj Srimad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.